Hello, I'm very glad to be here with you, and I would like to talk today about a new app for the iPhones created by Dr. Brian Leach, a specialist of emotions. And this app is called Emotional Counselor. And I will describe how does it work and how it was important for me to have access to this app in my everyday life. I would like to begin with Sylvan Tompkins' quote, who says that much of psychopathology appears to be concerned with transmuting disabilities. The inability to become aware of the intolerable content. So the inability of being conscious with what is really going on, and the inability to become unaware of the intolerable content. So the fact of thinking about the problem all the time is also a problem. So for the most part, we become conscious of what we want to know, and we remain unaware of what we don't want to know. That is in his book, Affect, Imagery, Consciousness, in Springer Publishing Company edition in New York. So this quote of Tompkins is a key for understanding the tool. This tool is a way of becoming aware of what sometimes we don't want to know, because we have usually not a very deep understanding of our emotions. We didn't have such formation at school or at the university. We learn a lot, but usually we don't learn how to deal with our emotions. Kids are beginning to deal with that in some advanced schools at the early childhood, but it's a very new program. Another quote that is important is that if we could look into each other's hearts and understand the unique challenge each of us faces, I think we would treat each other much more gently, with more love, patience, tolerance, and care. That's from Marvin Ashton. So all of us are facing challenges every day. And well, how the emotional counselor, the app, functions. At first, it helps you to recognize from 0 to 10 the emotions that you're feeling. The positive emotions as interest and joy. The negative emotions as anger, fear, distress, disgust, contempt, and shame. And the neutral emotion of surprise. So you evaluate from a scale from 0 to 10 those emotions, and it gives you a balance, how many positive emotions you're feeling and how many negative emotions you're feeling, and how many neutral emotions you're feeling. From then, you are able to think about what is the problem, to define the problem, to evaluate the problem, to do something about the problem, and to try to control the problem. And it encourages you not only to have, just to push a button to have a solution. I'm in a red, I'm in green, but it helps you. Well, today I'm more red than green, I'm more negative than positive, or I'm more positive than negative. And it's a way of evaluating how you feel with your emotions. And it can be helpful, but it goes very deeper than that. You have to define what is your emotional problem, to face it. to evaluate by yourself this problem, and then to try to do something about it. Not only to stay with the problem, but to do something about it. And finally, to try to control the problem. So, as a philosopher, I find it very interesting because it makes us think. And it makes us think about our emotions, what usually we try to avoid, and usually we don't really face, as I quote Tompkins, pardon, in the beginning. So let's talk about me and my own problem. It was well, a problem that many people have, and it has to deal with a relative of my family. I'm taking this example. I could take 1,000 of other cases, but I take a case that touches everybody, because everybody has someone in his family who has a disease, right? So I have a relative with a disease, and we were evaluating how bad it was, expecting the results, preparing ourselves to have the results, and thinking about what we should do in case of bad results. And I was very upset. I was very worried because I was, well, very moved about the disease of my relative. And I was worried that he could suffer and not me. And I began to evaluate my emotions, and they were very negative. They were really very negative. And I discovered, well, interest. I'm someone interested in life in general, so I put 10. Joy, I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy that my relative is alive. I'm just okay with the happiness. I put 7. Surprise, I was no surprise because I didn't have the results, right? Anger, no anger, because I'm a yoga teacher. I practice yoga every day. I was quite cool. Distress, yes. Afraid, definitely afraid. I just put a scale of 5, and distress 3. Disgust, I had a lot of disgust. And what if the results were bad? And contempt, no. And shame, I was very ashamed. I put 7 in the shame because I had a shame problem. My shame problem was to be healthy while a relative of mine was going through a hard time. And I think that's the thing, when we deal with the disease of a relative, from our family, from a friend, a daughter, a husband, a father, well, somehow can feel guilty about being healthy and being okay and having no problem. And I defined that my problem was a shame problem. And I understood it, and I said, well, how can I solve this problem? There's nothing wrong with being healthy, right? But at the same time, I'm not jumping of joy and happiness instead we don't have the results, and do something. Well, I begin to find escape strategies, like do more yoga, do some paintings, concentrate in my writings, change the script in a way, change this negative affective script. And during 2 days, I went on evaluating, and when the result comes, big surprise, I was prepared. I was not so shocked, so emotionally just desperate, because this emotional counselor prepared me to face my bad feelings, understand why I had them, and what I could do about it. So it just helped me to face the diagnostic that was not so good, not so bad, but not as good as we expected. And we were not happy with the results. So again, I evaluate what we could do about it. And I went on like this during a whole week. And each day I just paid attention to what I could do to share with my relative and with myself and with my friends joy and interest that are positive feelings. What could interest us, what could bring us joy, instead of focusing in what was a cause of fear, distress, disgust, or shame. So I focus on developing positive emotions. And for sure, when you are with a relative who have a disease, it's very important to have some joy, some light to bring to him and to yourself, to go through the disease. Whatever is the disease, whatever is the gravity of the disease, and who is the relative. If we are talking about a mother, a father, a son, a brother-in-law, or just a friend. So the emotional counselor can be a tool. It's not the tool. I think therapy is very important. Sometimes taking an anxiolytic is very important. To do art therapy is very important. They are not one tool to work with your emotions, but this is one more and very interesting tool. Maybe it could be used by the medical research. Maybe it could be transdisciplinary used because it's an interesting way of doing a scale of your feelings, knowing better your feelings and knowing how to do and how to cope with the situation when you have emotional problems, and is a way to knowing yourself better. So that's why I decided to make this quick video about the emotional counselor, because in a way I believe life can be, as Pema Chodron said, a good teacher and a good friend. Even in case of disease, things are always in transition. If we could only realize it, nothing ever sums itself in the way we like to dream about. The off-center in-between state is an ideal situation, a situation in which we don't get caught and we can open our heart and mind beyond limits. It's a very tender, non-aggressive, open-ended state of affairs. To stay with that shakiness, to stay with a broken heart, with a rumbling stomach, with the feeling of hopelessness, and waiting to get revenge, that is the path, she says. So what touches me in that quotation of Pema Chodron is just know about your emotions, learn about them, listen to them, recognize them, and try to evaluate your problems and solve them. It means to be a voice, not an echo, to have your own voice and to not only suffer the situation of the disease, for instance, but to be proactive, to do something about it in order to don't fall in a disability situation. Thank you for your attention and see you very soon, I hope, in the next video.